Joining us now from College Station, not in studio, our good friend Kevin Henry, you can hear on the broadcast tonight here on the franchise, along with our good friend Toby Rowland. Kevin, how's College Station and not Oklahoma City? How are you?
It's good. It's good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. I'm sorry, dude. I know
it's all Dylan's fault.
It is all my fault. I can take.
Well, listen. I was listening to you guys, and you're like, I'm wondering if Kevin Henry's here, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not there. I'm not a town.
Daniel's like, why are you looking back? I'm just waiting to find Kevin. He's usually really punctual. And you were, and I wasn't, so sorry. Let's go back to the Arkansas game real quick. Great win for Oklahoma. To me, Kevin, I kind of compared it to the Georgia game a little, just because it was one of those games where Oklahoma, found themselves kind of playing catch up early, got in control a little bit, prevailed in the second half, and it seemed like they made the plays, especially defensively, that they didn't against Georgia. Now, I know we can talk about free throw discrepancy, but I'm talking about game flow. Did you feel that way, or how did you feel about the way the win itself shook out against the Razorbacks?
Yeah, I agree. And you brought up the free throws. We're not going to talk about that in that Georgia game. But, no, I thought the Sooners really did a good job. I thought they won the 50-50 balls, especially down the stretch. I mean, there were so many possessions that Mo Wagee got on the floor there at the end, and Jalen Moore outran somebody to a loose ball or something like that, or got a big rebound and defensive stop, and that's how you win games like this, especially on the road. You've got to do the little things that don't always show up in a box sheet, but you got to figure out a way to make those plays happen. Glenn Taylor's been a guy that has done that stuff for the Sooners this year. I thought Mo and Jalen, as I mentioned. I thought the guards came in and played well. I mean, Jeremiah Fears he's not scoring 30 and things. People know that. But, I mean, he's definitely showing growth and improvement every possession, every game. And so it's fun to watch him just continue to get better. And I still believe he's a lottery pick. And so they've made winning plays down the stretch. And that's how you get a road win, a huge road win in this league, is to do all the little things.
Kevin, on to tonight in Texas A&M, like Dylan mentioned, because you're not here, because Dylan forgot.
I'm an idiot. Thank you, Daniel.
But, how much of a must-win is tonight's game for the Sooners?
Well, you feel like you got to get them back. You had this one. You're up 18 in the second half and let it slip and let these guys steal one from you on your home floor, not that long ago. And so you feel like you got to get this one back. And, I think the guys are playing well. I mean, the attitude and the vibe around the team right now is really good. They're, you can just tell it shooting around on the bus and on the plane, things like that. The guys are, bebopping around in a good way. So I like that. I feel good about tonight's game. They as you go into a game like this, you feel like we can score on A&M. We can make shots. And, yeah, Bryson Goodine hit 9 threes or whatever else, but there were other guys that made big shots in that game. And so you feel like you just got to, run some of the same stuff. I thought the double high screen, pick and pop for Jalen Moore is going to work. I think it's going to work again. And you just see teams the way that they guard. Now, if they change, then the Sooners always have an answer. I mean, I thought the Arkansas game, pulling that post player, one of those post players that Arkansas had, I can't remember his name right now, but pulling him away from the basket, he wanted no part of guarding out on the perimeter. And so they just kept doing it. And it basically took him out of the game, because if he doesn't, stay out there with the post player, Luke Northweather, whoever it may be, he can't play. And so you got to just it's a chess match. And, this is a legitimate chess match with these two teams. One team, us, the Sooners, being up so big and giving it up. So, yeah, you feel like it's a must-win. You feel like you can really get enough. You got to get it back. Whether you call it stealing or what, you've got to get it back because you gave up one earlier.
Kevin Henry's our guest here on 107.7 The Franchise. You're going to hear him on the broadcast tonight as the Sooners take on Texas A&M. And, again, every second of it right here on The Franchise. That goes at 8 o'clock tonight. Okay, I wanted to ask you, if you're Porter Moser, I'm going to ask you a two-part question from the coaching perspective of this game tonight. Do you try to get Bryson Goodine some shots early in this to kind of mimic what happened in the first meeting, knowing that his confidence is probably really high? If I can do that against these cats at home, why can't I do it on the road? On the flip side of that, if you're Buzz, are you kind of going, all right, well, do we just sort of make him prove it and not really change what we had the first time because we won? Like, how would you approach this game if you're on both sides of these benches?
Well, first, I think Buzz is going to have somebody get in his jersey all night. They're not going to let him get loose because they've seen it firsthand, how he can catch fire out there. And so if you're A&M, you get all over Bright. You may even face guard him. Did not let him get hot. And, coaches, yes, they can watch film, and yes, they watch, every game you've played multiple times, but they remember a whole lot better what you did to them. And so that's going to be the key for Buzz. I think he's going to try to take Bryson Goodine out of the game. Now, if you're Porter, yes, you do try to get him shots, but you don't force it. You don't try to recreate what happened, a couple weeks ago, because 9 threes doesn't happen that often. I mean, that's a once in a season type game that he may have. I know he's hit big threes before in his career, but that doesn't happen all the time. So what you do is you don't want to try to recreate that. You want to run good offense. You want to run offense that you feel like can get some shots. And I thought the offense looked clunky in the first half of the South Carolina game. But you remember we got rolling there in the second half and stretched that lead out big time. Now, Boyles, their big player, their post player that was so good, another guy that's on draft boards, just like every team in the SEC's got one. He came out, he was out again. I think he fouled out. So that allowed us to get loose, get some confidence, start making some shots, start getting downhill, getting to the basket, getting fouled, getting to the free throw line. But if you try to recreate those things, it's just too hard. It's just too hard, and teams are too good these days. So what you do is you just want to let the game come to you, and that's if you're Porter, that's if you're Bryson, that's if you're anybody, even a guy like Jalen Moore, a leading scorer, one of the top 3 or 4 scorers in the SEC. Let the game come to you. You hear that all the time, but there's so much truth in that just because it has to happen. You can't force it. If you force it, you get to thinking about it too much, and if you miss 1 or 2, then you feel like your game's shot. So now you're pressing. So let the game come to you. I think that's a big key for all the Sooners. Let the game come to you. It may be Duke Miles, it may be Kobe Elvis. Nevertheless, you got to let the game come to you and just take what the defense gives you.
Kevin, I've been feeling like they need to get some more output from at least one of the bigs, whether that's Northweather or Godwin. How do you feel like they can do that without it being a detriment to the rest of the roster than everything they already have going on?
That's a great question. I think I agree with you 100%. You got to get some post play. I thought Sam Godwin's game against Oklahoma State this year was terrific. 20 and 14. He scored around the basket. He scored in the mid post. He scored in the high post. He shot that floater right there inside the paint, right there at the free throw line. I thought that's his game. I think that's his game. And so when he's not on that part of his game, now catching lobs and dunking, which he did in the first half there at Arkansas, that was huge. I mean, especially that one Fierce to him. He had to reach back to get that one. I thought it was going out of bounds, and he just went upstairs and got it and threw it down. It was a great play. Again, those plays don't happen all the time. So what you have to do is you have to figure out ways that you can find good opportunities to get buckets. And so for Sam Godwin, I think it's right there in that mid-post, that low-post area, getting to the dunker spot and getting your hands and feet ready to shoot and score. For Luke Northweather, it's the same thing, just on the perimeter. I think Luke's one of the better three-point shooters the Sooners have. So if you're going to run some pick and pops, if they're not going to come out there on him, and you can put Luke at the 4 or you can put him at the 5. Nevertheless, depending on who's guarding him, that's kind of how you play the chess game. And so you move him outside. You see if you can get some drive and kick threes for him in the corner. You put him setting that screen at the top of the key, let him pick and pop there, seeing how they guard that, and just play from there. But yeah, I agree. You gotta get those guys more involved in just the offense. And you say that, you don't want to run a whole bunch of plays for them because that would be detrimental to what I just said about letting the game come to you. But if those guys, part of Sam Godwin's best game is going to the offensive glass. That's the best part of his game. And so to be an offensive rebounder like him, you have to crash the glass every possession. And if he gets tired, you got to come out, get your wind right, and then go back in and just continue to play with that motor that's allowed him to be one of the best offensive rebounders in the league.
Kevin Henry's our guest. You can hear him on the call tonight against Texas A&M, right here on the franchise. 8 o'clock is when that game tips off. We have to do our weekly check-in on Jeremiah Fears, and you look back to the Arkansas performance. I think he had 16 points. We were talking about this earlier today. How beneficial would a floater be to his game? That was floated out there by our good friend Cliff Brunt, but if he were to, kind of attach that to his game, what difference would that make in him as a point guard and facilitator?
Yeah, that's a big shot for these guards. A lot of guards these days are going to that floater because they're not able to get all the way to the rim, and they don't want to stop and shoot a mid-range jump shot. You rarely see that mid-range jump shot, and because it's hard. I mean, that's a hard shot to shoot, especially as you're going downhill as fast as these guys are. To stop on a dime and pull that shot it's hard. But Jeremiah is so good at getting all the way to the rim. He's been able to finish. He's one of the best finishers in the game, around the basket. And so I like him trying to get all the way to the rim. When you shoot the floater, it's almost like you're bailing yourself out. And, that's not taking anything away from anybody that goes to the floater. I like that shot as well. But I think he's been really efficient. You think about it, 16 on 8 shots. He got to the foul line. He got fouled, made 7 for 7 from the foul line. He's rebounding the ball really well. He's, getting his assist numbers 3 or 4 or 5 a game, which is good for him. But the best thing about what he's done is he's taken care of the basketball. I think he only had 4 turnovers last 2 games. Mm-hmm. And so that's really good. I mean, more assists, less turnovers. Remember in the beginning, I mean, that was one of his Achilles heels was, turn the basketball over. So you can see the growth, you can see the development in his game and the coaching in him to just keep doing what he's doing. So I'm glad he's kind of improving in those areas. The floater could work, but if you're not a guy that's gone to that very much like Fears, I don't think he's going to add that to his game midseason. That's one of those things you want to implement in the offseason. You see Jalen Moore. One of the things I talk about every broadcast, his shot fake, put it on the floor, get all the way to the rim with the left hand. He's gotten so much better at that. He couldn't even dribble with his left hand last year, and he still struggles in some regards when he tries to dribble it 4, 5, 6, 7 times. But if it's a shot fake, rip through, 1-2 dribble at the rim, left-handed or right-handed, he's gotten so much better just laying it in, using that athleticism, but not always trying to dunk the ball on people, but, finishing around defenders. And so that's something that Jalen really spent this summer working on, and you can see it in this game. So I think Jeremiah, obviously, this may be his only year in a center uniform, but that'll be something he will probably implement, in the future, not necessarily, this week or next week.
Yeah, Kevin, staying on Jeremiah Fears, is there anything else you need to see from him for the rest of the season that you want to develop in his game?
Just he plays with he plays fast. Like, don't get me wrong. Sitting there courtside watching him blow by people, he is one of the fastest players in the league. But it looks like he's not even trying sometimes. He's got that effortless look and feel to him. And so to have that pop, he has to, monitor that himself. But I don't want him to take plays off. And it's hard for a high school kid, especially one that's as young as him, to know the difference. And so when you see the difference in that with older guys. I mean, those guys are playing so hard and so fast and so physical, and that's the way the game's going. And it's almost like I was talking to a buddy last night, and we were at dinner, and he says, the court is the court needs to be bigger by the amount of physicality that they have 10 guys playing with, especially in the SEC. And he was right, because you think about how many collisions there are in games, and guys are just running into each other. But it's because they're playing so fast, and the way the offenses are set up, the way they kind of run their little motion offense, every team does their own little twist of that. So it's so physical out there, and you see Fears, it's almost like he hadn't broke a sweat yet. And so that's one thing it's uncanny for him just to have that feel of the game. But, man, he's got to continue to play with his motor, and that energy and effort he's got to put out. It's got to be big time, especially when you get in these league games like this, because you can see what Mark Sears, you can see what those other guards, those other schools are doing, and they're just playing so stinking hard every single time. And not that Jeremiah's not playing hard, but that's one thing that if he could add that extra notch, that extra pop to his game on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively, that would take his game to another level. Now, again, it's going to be hard for him to do that midseason. He has to learn that, and he's just a guy that just plays like he doesn't sweat, which is a unique talent, which is why he's so good. But if he could get that extra notch, get to that extra gear, that would be huge.
Kevin, I know we've asked and talked about this numerous times throughout the year, and you've kind of said as we've talked through the scheduling aspect of this, how it's the toughest league, and that we know it's, every night's going to be really, really brutal. I believe you said 500 or even a little less would work for Oklahoma to make it to the tournament. But if you look at the rest of their schedule right now, 10 of the next 12 are against ranked teams. Texas still has a chance to be ranked. So maybe potentially even 11 of the next 12. LSU's probably not in that department. But 11 of the next 12 might feature a ranked opponent for Oklahoma. Do you feel like it's still kind of 500-ish? I mean, I agree with you. Like, that's a great record, especially for this league. But aside from that, though, do you think there's a little more wiggle room that maybe we didn't even discuss yet with the way that the schedule shakes out for OU?
I do, and because they're all going to be quad one opportunities, and so that's the way that the metrics of the NCAA tournament committee looks at. They look at those quad one wins, and the Sooners right now, I think, are sitting at 4 quad one wins already, and I think that's what they had last year combined, and we were the first team out. Think about that. I mean, you had 4 quad ones last year, and we were the first team out of the tournament, and you have 4, and we're just a little over midway through the season. And so to have so many of those opportunities on your schedule, and yeah, I mean, you got to win some, but at least you have the opportunity to, those are still on your schedule. You think about teams that don't play as tough of a schedule where they're fighting an uphill battle because where are they going to find those quad one wins? Where are you going to find those opportunities? And so for the Sooners, I think it's huge that they do have that. Now, again, I don't like sweating on Selection Sunday. I would rather, know that we're in and solid. But I think a 500 record in league play would be huge, but some people say just get to 7. 7 wins in league play will get you to 20 total for the season, which has typically been kind of the barometer, or if you will. But does 8 do it? 8 and 10? I don't know. You just never know. There's so many good teams out there, and the way that the committee values those wins each year, sometimes it seems like it's a little bit different. It's hard to hit a moving target. So I like the fact that we have 11 of the next 12 games against ranked opponents and whatever. Like, that's huge. But you still got to go out and win those games.
Kevin, good stuff. We appreciate the time. Enjoy College Station, and we'll chat with you next week.
All right, man. Thanks, guys. See you.
Kevin Henry joining us on the Franchise Hotline as he does every single week to preview Oklahoma's big contest tonight against Texas A&M. Again, that game goes at 8 o'clock. I believe our pregame coverage starts at 7:30. On that front, you can hear every dribble right here on the Franchise.